Free TV, in association with getoutofdebtfree.org.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanya. I'm talking today about accelerated learning. You're welcome to write notes, but you won't need to, because I'm using memory techniques deliberately so that everyone in this room remembers how to learn something very, very quickly. And learning is all about having fun, so it's all about having fun as well. By the way, before I put the next one on, I'm only going to have the PowerPoint on for 2 minutes, and then I'm turning it off. And just quickly, accelerated learning can be used for any subject. No matter what you're teaching, you can still use these same techniques. They're based on how the brain learns best and how we learn best as human beings. So it's natural. We naturally learn very, very fast. And naturally, we all want to have fun, right? So, you can just about see this. You can't really see the writing, which is probably a good thing. This is what I call 5D learning, because it's got 5 dimensions, 5 aspects to it: relaxation, collaboration, wholeness, memory, and teaching. By the end of this talk, everyone in this room who stays to the end, if you're having fun. By the way, I always say, when I'm running a course or teaching, I always say, if you're not having fun at any point, please let me know, because it's all about having fun. We're all going to be able to explain this, and to make sure you remember it even more, the best way to remember it is to explain it to somebody else. So that's what we're going to be learning in the next just under an hour. But if you please have any questions, please let me know. And this is an interactive talk, so sitting down quietly is okay, but let's all join in. Let's join in and have some fun. So I'm going to turn this off now, because we're not going to use that to learn from. We're all going to learn ourselves. So turn this off, yeah?
Yeah, press once. No, once.
Is it going to go off?
Yes.
So, for anyone that wants to join in, we start off with relaxation. And every lesson, every time you learn something, whether you're a teacher or a student, and everyone in this room is a teacher and a student, no matter who you are, we're all teachers and students, for learning, it's really important to relax. Just quickly, by a show of hands, how many people in this room have ever been in a learning environment and felt uncomfortable or bored or had a headache from listening? Oh, most of us. And that's the opposite way to the way we really want to learn. So it's all about having a comfortable learning environment. So we're going to do a couple, I'm going to put the microphone in a minute, we're going to down in a minute, we're going to do a couple of key, really important relaxation exercises for anyone that wants to join in. Now, relaxation is important for a few reasons. Firstly, for the brain. We need to get the brain into the correct state. The brain is most suggestive when it's in the delta state. Or is it theta? It's if you look at the brain waves, it's when it starts to slow down, and you get that from meditation or from relaxing. So you can meditate if you want, or you can just breathe and relax. So firstly, we're just going to take a few deep breaths. And the reason being is because the brain needs a lot more oxygen than what we realise. And sometimes just taking in a few deep breaths can make such a massive difference to your brain. So anyone who wants to join in, I'm just going to breathe in. So breathing, other than being quite important for our existence, it's really good for us. Firstly, because our brain needs the oxygen, and secondly, it gets us present. Gets us balanced. How many of you have ever been stressed and then had to suddenly learn or remember something? Yeah, it's quite common when suddenly we've just gone into a meeting or something and we've just been so stressed. It's okay. Sometimes it's just going to the toilet or hiding in a corridor and just taking a few deep breaths. It has such an amazing aspect on your balance and your well-being, your mental and physical well-being. So, the other reason why we relax is for the body, funnily enough. Because the nervous system isn't just here, it's everywhere. And also, we don't want the brain to be sending energy to a part of our body if we're in pain. So if we're in pain or we've got a bit of tension somewhere, like in our shoulders, then part of us is going to be spending our energy on making ourselves feel better, because that's what we naturally do. Whereas if we just do some small exercises just to release that, quite often I just do shoulder rolls, or I do stretches up to the ceiling, oops, and then bend my knees. It's really good to just move the joints around and just make sure there's no tension in my body at all. So the first part, which is the red part, which is at the top, is relaxation. What is it? Anyone want to tell me why it's good to relax? Oxygen for the brain. Yes, thank you. Oxygen for the brain. Anyone else?
Release tension.
Pardon?
Release tension.
Release your tension in your body. Yes, really important that we're all happy, we've got happy bodies and we're not tense anywhere. Anyone else? Yes, to get into the right brain waves, so that our brain is in a suggestible state. Has anyone ever looked up sleep learning? Sleep learning and suggestology. There's an Austrian man called Lozanov who's done an incredible amount of research and many, many scientific experiments on the impact of sleep learning. And one fascinating one was one night he had a group of participants. Normally went to bed with you put an audio on and you listen to it as you're drifting off to sleep. And the other participants, they went to bed and he said they were going to listen to it, and he talked about the importance of making an intention. He said, oh, this is really important, and we're going to intend that we're going to remember it, and we're going to make an affirmation beforehand. The group that didn't actually listen to the learning still learnt something. So sleep learning and suggestible learning, suggestology or suggestible learning, is a great way to learn something if you really want to learn it in that way. But for me, whether you're teaching something or learning something, always make sure you're relaxed and the people that you're teaching or sharing with are also relaxed. And there's many, many ways you can do that, and it can just be 5 minutes. So the second thing, which is here, which is the yellow one, it's called collaboration. So if we think about all of the fun experiences that we have in our lives, how many of us have a lot more fun when we're around other people? So we have fun. We're naturally collaborative beings. We naturally want to be around other people. We naturally want to live in communities. Collaboration is also about playing games. If you play games, then it's going to be memorable and it's going to be fun. And for me, personally, I don't believe in rules. It's up to you. Obviously, there's some things or guidelines that are useful, but when they've done studies on babies' brains, what it shows is as soon as a toddler learns a rule, like a neural pathway in their brain shuts off. And it's like, if you imagine that our brain's got lots of little corridors of all these amazing, incredible things that we can learn, and every time someone says, you can't do that, or you can't do it that way, it shuts down. And so that's why children learn a lot faster than adults do. So collaboration is about playing games, having fun, and instead of rules, it's about discovering patterns. So we're working together to discover the patterns rather than, oh look, this is the rule. Because the other thing for me about education is that education is empowering. If we want to empower our students, we don't just say, what's the answer to this question? So what do you think? And see how they come to an answer themselves, which is far more powerful for them. So collaboration, what's the second one? Collaboration. And for me, there's many, many amazing learning systems, accelerated learning online. There's Rosetta Stone, there's Michelle Thomas. There's an amazing website called Memrise, which is about memory techniques. There's so many things that we can do, but the best way is when you involve somebody else in your learning. Whether that's 2 people, 6 people, or 12 people, when you're working together to learn something, it's far better, because then you end up, naturally, you come to a block, you come to something that you don't understand, and you say, how does this work? And you end up explaining it to each other. And when you're explaining it to each other, you suddenly go, oh, actually, I didn't know that. So it's the collaboration that makes it, 1, much more fun, and 2, much more memorable. The third one, which is the green one, is down here. And this is called wholeness. What's it called? Wholeness means two things, two main things. One, wholeness of the subject. Sometimes we say, right, now we're going to look at, I don't know, the World War One, or now we're going to look at vermiculture, or we're going to look at how to forage. It depends on, it could be anything, but quite often we just look at one angle of the subject. And there's a couple of reasons why to look at it in a much more holistic way is very beneficial. One, for memory, because when you're learning something, the more different ways you look at something, so the more angles you look at something, the more memorable it is. And secondly, if you look at it with a holistic approach, then you can see it as the bigger picture. And for children to learn something, well, okay, so this is how it's taught here, this is how this is really effective, and you make connections, then it's very beneficial to them too. Wholeness, the other reason for wholeness is for the body. Now I say we have three aspects of the body. We have the water. How many aspects? By the way, I'm not asking these questions just to make everyone shout. I'm asking these questions because the more you engage, the more you say three, or the more you put your hand up or answer the questions, the more likely you're going to remember this. And I want to make sure everyone here can remember all of this. So, wholeness. We've got the whole subject and we've got the body. And with the body, the three aspects. The first one is water. And quite often we forget how important water is. And actually our brain needs an incredible amount of water, particularly when we're learning. And if the brain is dehydrated, then it stops working by an incredible amount. It's 30% that the brain will just shut down. The second one is, so what's the first one? What's the second one? Yeah, I deliberately did. The second one is food. And I recently didn't ask them for the time. It's not gone in yet. But they said they'll let me know as soon as it goes in about food, because food is massively important for learning. And there's so many people we just forget, oh yeah, I'm just going to stop and have lunch now. But actually, and I noticed this when I was doing some private sessions with a son and his dad. And in the afternoon, quite a lot of children, they start to get peckish. Quite a lot of adults too. But we start to get peckish. And what happens is, if we've got mental processing going on, we need to feed that. And secondly, it's about chewing it over. That's where the phrase, I'm just chewing it over. I just need to think it through. I need to literally chew something. And then it's for the nutritional content. Now, what I found in the courses and the workshops that I run, the best food for learning is particularly satsumas, but also nuts and bananas, because of the content, the nutritional content that's in them. So just to recap, we had wholeness, and what were the three things? And the third thing is the brain. Oxygen, yeah, good. But I always say oxygen in relaxation, but you could have oxygen in wholeness if you wanted to. So is the brain, and that's because quite often we just go, yeah, I'm just going to learn this, and we don't ever think, in teacher training, we don't learn how the brain works. And we don't think, we hear all the time, oh, that's a left brain activity, or that's a right brain activity. Okay, I don't really know there's so many different theories about this, but it's really about getting them to work together. And the best way to do that, other than drinking water, is to make sure you're balanced. And there's quite a lot of different activities that you can do, from brain gym and brain balancing. Have you ever heard of any of these? Who said no? No, I haven't. Great, so brain gym, personally, they're based on ancient Tai Chi and meditation techniques. Someone in America then turned it into a course and into a learning program. And it's really good, but it's just quite expensive to learn it. And there's quite a lot of different videos. They use brain gym a lot in primary schools in America, because what it does is it affects your concentration. And suddenly you'll get children that are gazing out the window and they're starting to get a bit bored or vacant. And then you just do a little bit of brain gym and it'll turn it around. So I'm just going to quickly show you a few bits of brain gym now, if that's all right. And if anyone wants to use them at any point, please do. I have to put the mic down there. First one, this is called brain buttons. So you take one hand like this. And you put it here on your collarbone. And you take your other hand and you put it on your stomach. What that does is it's called brain buttons, because it literally switches your brain on. You see, I've just got that fleshy bit there. It's kind of, it feels a bit strange, but they've done so many studies on it, and it does really switch your brain on. If you've got a headache, or if you're feeling a bit vacant, or you're not very focused, doing this, and then you swap hands. So it's a really great way to, right, I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to make sure I remember it, and I'm going to balance my brain and get my brain connected. Another one which I do all the time, this is called cross crawl. So anyone who's standing up, you're welcome to join in. You basically take one hand and you bring it to your opposite knee. You can do it sitting down too. It's got to be opposite to opposite, and there's so many things, like if you think about childhood games in the playground where they do this, the fluffy games, this is why giving a talk on my own is not as fun as collaboration, because I need someone to do this with, like this. So that's an example of a child's game that actually, naturally, it connects the brain up. It's getting the brain, both parts of the brain to talk to each other. There's another one which is a yoga exercise, funny enough, but you can, and I won't touch my feet, but you literally take the opposite hand, opposite foot, right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot. I'm not touching my feet because they're filthy. So there's so many things that you can do to make sure you stay connected and stay balanced. So I'm just going to quickly recap there. We had relaxation, about getting relaxed for the brain, the body, the mind. We also had collaboration, working together, discovering patterns, playing games, having fun. And then we had wholeness, down here, the green one, looking at the whole subject, wholeness for the brain, keeping it nourished with lots of water, lots of food, and brain gym or brain balancing. So now I'm going to move on to the one that's down here in the corner. It's called memory. And that's because most people don't ever learn much about memory, about how to apply it. And I find memory really fascinating, and there's so many tiny things that we can do just to have a small understanding of memory that we know that we're going to make sure we remember it. Quite often I don't like going to a talk now if I know I'm not going to be able to remember it, so I always do something that will make sure I remember it. So with memory, there's a few key things. The first one, which I mentioned this morning, is repeat, review, recall 5 times. How many times? 5 times. That's really important, because if you do it 5 times, the repeating in different ways, the reviewing with somebody else that you've been learning with, and the recalling by yourself, or you're recalling the information from your memory, then again it goes in. And then we also need to make memory much easier. So people say, oh, I'm really bad at memory. I know some people say I'm really... Okay, firstly, that's a statement. That's a preconceived idea that someone told you. And secondly, we can all be really good at memory. And the easiest way to do that is to start linking things, making associations. The brain is naturally associative. The brain naturally wants to make associations, and this is the way all the memory experts and champions, they do it. They make connections and associations with something that they're learning. So I call it memory hooks. Right, John? So memory association. So you take something that you're learning and you link it to something you're already familiar with. Now, in memory, according to the brain, in terms of working best with the brain, we've got 3 key things again. It's all about 3s, you see. We've got imagination, association, and location. What are they? So,
The second one again?
association.
Imagination, association, location.
Okay. So you don't need me. It's really good that everything, if you say it out loud or you go away and you explain this to somebody else, then you know that it's going to stay with you. So imagination is because the brain naturally thinks in images. We naturally see pictures in our mind. We can't help it. If I said, can you see a tree? Can everyone see a tree? Can everyone see a tree in their mind? And we can do it with our eyes open or with our eyes closed. If I said, can you see a green tree? Can everyone see a green tree? Or let's say we're going into autumn now, can you see a brown tree? See, we can all do it with our eyes open or eyes closed. We naturally see images all the time. And if you turn something into an image, then it will take, which is what mind maps are based on, then it will take you 2 seconds to recall what that image was about, rather than a lot of text. So, and images, in terms of books, if anyone here is writing a book, use lots of images, because then it sticks with the reader's mind. Association, again, because the brain's naturally associative. And location is because we need to know where it's put in the brain. Is the easiest way to explain that. There's 2 really good memory techniques that the memory champions, they use these 2. One of them is called the Roman room. Has anyone here heard of Roman room? Yeah? Do you want to explain it? No. Okay. The Roman room, you've heard of it?
Is it the one where you link objects to things in a well-known room?
Yes, although it doesn't have to be a well-known room, it can be a made-up room.
Darren Brown used to do it when there's card counting.
Yes. I think every memory expert that does card counting uses the Roman room, but they turn it into a palace. And what you do is you imagine a room in your mind, or you can imagine a palace. It's completely up to you. It depends on how much you have to remember. And then you associate pieces of information to different objects in the room. Now, the room can be a room at home, like my living room, or it can be a room that you completely make up. I did this with GCSE history last year, and the results were amazing. And I said, look, your imagination is whatever you want it to be. You can put whatever you like in your room. The first step is to put furniture into your room. And one girl decided she wanted to put cars in her room. Well, that's okay. There's no rules. We can imagine whatever we like. So you can put whatever colour, whatever furniture, but there needs to be furniture, because then you take what it is you need to remember and you associate it. So by the door there'll be something. If we're looking at this room, by that sign there'll be something, by the lights here there'll be something, over here there'll be something, and you link objects that you need to remember to different objects or furniture in the room. And the other memory technique that's really effective is called the route. Have you heard of the route?
Same thing but a journey.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you want to explain?
You associate things with stages on a journey, so it might be your walk round to the corner shop, by the lamppost there's the first thing you have to remember to buy, and by the post box there's something else, and so on.
Okay, thank you. See? It's brilliant. So you pick a route that you know really well, and you link objects to landmarks on that route. And you can use this, whatever you're trying to remember, you can use this one. So, quickly to go back with memory, there was 3 things I said, the first 3 things, and they were 5 times. What were the 3 things?
Association, imagination, location.
And location. And what were the other 3 things, all beginning with R?
Review, recall.
And what am I asking you to do now?
Remember.
Repeat.
Repeat.
Repeat, review, recall. So, for me personally, the way I learn is through body language. I always use a lot of body language, and I'm holding a mic, so it's a bit different now. But so, this is the way I remember it. Repeat, review, recall, that's that one. And imagination, association, and location. And you can do the gestures if you want, or you can just remember that, and that will stick with you. If you ever want to remember anything, they're the 3 key things for memory. Also, one other aspect for memory, whenever you're teaching something or learning something, it's really important to do something called chunking. So quite often I've gone back over in this talk and said, what's this? And everything is in groups of 3s. Chunking, the best way to do it is to split things into groups of 3s and sum them up with just one word. So it can be anything. Whatever it is you're teaching, break it down. Always break it down into groups of 3s, because that's the best way for the brain. So we had, what was the first one? The red one. Of the 5-petaled flower, what was the red one that we did? Relaxation. What's the yellow one? Collaboration. It's easy to remember, right? And what's the green one? Wholeness. Wholeness. Just a quick thing, that I use colour a lot. And whenever I'm teaching, I always use all my resources. Most of them are handwritten and in coloured pens. Or not at all, and I get children to make their own resources. Colour is so important because it helps you remember it and it helps you work out things. So if you're writing a book, or if you prepare any materials, where possible use colour, because 1, it makes it much more interesting to read, 2, it makes it much more memorable. So colour. That's the 4th one of memory. The 5th one, which is pink, is teaching. And that's because when you really want to learn something, the best way to learn it is to teach it. And if you feel like you've got a little bit of knowledge about something but you're not too sure, the best way to check yourself is to run a course on it. We've got people nodding over here, but it sounds like, oh, but how can you do that when you're not qualified or you don't have the experience? It doesn't matter. If you've got the passion, it doesn't matter. And if you really want to remember it, the best way to remember it out of everything is teach it to somebody else and be responsible for their learning and for passing it on, sharing the knowledge. I've learned this because quite often someone has said, can you teach this? And it's been a subject I know nothing about. And I've gone, okay. Because if you believe you're limited, then that's what belief you're telling yourself. But if you believe you can do anything, then that's what you can do. Other than, at the moment, fly. We can't fly yet. But pardon? You said it. There you go. Yes, we've got a guy over there levitating everything. But generally, in terms of our learning potential, we can do whatever we really believe we can. And people said to me, I run courses, conversational language in 2 days. And you can't do that. And I said, well, you can, it's done, there you go. And when I had someone who came on the course and she used to teach GCSE French, she said I'd covered over 70% of the curriculum in 2 days. And personally, I believe a GCSE can be covered in a week. I've done this it makes the school system sound completely balmy, doesn't it? It's like, I don't know, if you follow this principle, relaxation, collaboration, wholeness, memory, and teaching, and everyone in the room is a teacher. It's not just the person at the front. I don't often do talks like this because I'm not really the person at the front. It's about us working together and us all sharing our knowledge that we have here, because there's so many people at this festival that have got an incredible amount of knowledge, and we can all learn from each other. And actually, no matter what qualification anyone has got, who's got teacher training or anything, we're all teachers. We can all share our knowledge, whether it's with people older than us or younger than us. I don't think age matters either. I think it's just about sharing. So for teaching, there's quite a few reasons. There's one, it helps you remember it quite nicely. Two, it's about sharing our knowledge to empower other people. So many of us have got all this knowledge of all these books that we've read. It doesn't matter whether we've got a degree in it, like I say, it's just if you're passionate about it, then why don't you empower somebody else and share it with them? And just about sharing it and working together. There's like, I'm going to go learn about biochar later, and there's all the different things about solar panels here, and bees, and so many things that we can just learn, and we can learn from each other. And lastly, for teaching, is pay it forward. Lovely son has got some pay it forward bracelets, if you want to ask him. He's got some on the side. Has anyone heard of pay it forward here? Yes, some of us? So, pay it forward is about doing something for somebody else without expecting anything in return. So, I'm going to do this and I don't expect anything of anyone. And why that is so good is because it's about changing our perceptions of the way things work. Because quite often we think, oh, I can only do this if I charge X amount, or if they do this for me, or if it's an exchange. But pay it forward is like sometimes we can do something that's really small for us, and it means something really big for somebody else. It can be anything, like giving a homeless man a banana. It really doesn't matter what it is, but pay it forward is quite key. And for me, I'm really passionate about teaching children about kindness and about community living. And we're only going to get community living if we talk to each other. Even in cities, we just talk to each other and we see what people are up to and how we can support them. And so for Pay It Forward, I write Pay It Forward articles on their website. But the idea with the bracelets is you do something really kind for somebody else that makes a big difference to them, and you give them the bracelet and you say, now pay it forward. The reason why I talk about it is because if you went around teaching everything you knew to random people or to friends, think about all that knowledge that's just being spread out. That's paying it forward. So pay it forward, I think, for me, is a big part of education and of learning. If children really knew and they were kind with each other and they just learned something and then they paid it on. So a couple of examples of that was, last year I was tutoring and I taught a girl how to set up a website. And she was in year 10, which is nearly in year 11 now. And so she set up her own website and she wrote blog posts about her revision. So every time she was doing a revision session or a homework, she blogged about it. And then she suddenly said to me, oh wow, this can help my classmates as well, can't it? Yes. So we can, whether it's through a website or through talking to people, we can always empower other people and just pass it on. Another one was the day before yesterday. I was at Bristol train station, and there was a young family there. Oh, thank you very much. If anyone wants any, son, just pass these over. If anyone wants a pay it forward bracelet, are you giving them out, son? Yeah. If you really want to do something kind for somebody else, take a bracelet at some point at the end, and you just wear it until you feel ready, or until the situation arises and you can do something that just makes a difference to somebody else, and you give them the bracelet. And there's so many different ideas. There's a Pay It Forward group on Facebook, and there's a Pay It Forward website, and people share ideas of things that they can do to make a better world. So I was at Bristol train station, and there was a young family there, and there was a young boy who was about 8 or 9, and he was looking a bit agitated, you know. He was a bit bored and just kind of waiting for the train. Oh, come on, you know. And I said to him, do you want to learn Spanish? He said, yeah, okay. And so I said, here you go. And I just happened to have a spare role play in my bag. And I gave him a role play that's got Spanish on one side and English on the other side. And it's all in coloured pens. So you can work out from looking at it, oh, well, that means that, and that means that, and that means that. And you can just work it out yourself what each word means. And so I gave him the sheet, and he was really chuffed with it. It didn't mean anything to me because, I mean, I'm not giving away any promotional material. It hasn't got my website on it or anything. I just gave it to him, and he was just so delighted. He had something to do, something to occupy him, and he can then just learn it and have some fun and talk about it with somebody else. So we had relaxation. Then what was next? Collaboration. What was the third one? Wholeness. What was the fourth one? Memory. The fourth one's memory, and the fifth one's teaching. One more time. Well, we can do it 5 times if you want. So I'm going to bring it up again in a minute. We had red at the top. Red for relaxation. That's how you remember. Red. What colour was the first one? Red. There you go. What was it? Relaxation. Why do we relax? Anybody? Optimum results. What does it do to us? Yeah, gets our brain into the right state. It gives us extra oxygen. Gets us out of stress, and more importantly as well, gets us comfortable. We want to be comfortable, don't we? We don't want to be learning sitting on hard chairs and hard tables and concrete walls everywhere. We want to be comfortable and happy. What was the second one? It was yellow, by the way. What colour was it? What was the word? Collaboration, working together, playing games, creating connections, discovering patterns rather than being told what the rules are. The third one? Green. It was green, yes. I'm seeing lots of green around. It's really nice. Wholeness. Wholeness. Wholeness of what? The body and the mind and the subject. Wholeness of the body, the mind and the subject. That's it. And then we had the fourth one. It was blue. Memory. What's memory? Can anyone remember anything from memory? Colour. Using colour. Chunking. Yes, chunking into groups of 3 and using association. Yes, pardon? The root and the Roman root. Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Location. That's it. If you to make it easier to recall in the brain, that's why you put it in a particular location when you're visualizing it.
Repeat it 5 times.
Repeat it 5 times and review it and recall it. The other thing with memory that's really, really good fun and great for everyone involved is music. If you turn something into a rhythm, and recently we ran a Spanish course and we made up Spanish songs, and it was just so much fun because we're singing these songs that you wouldn't normally sing. They're not like fashionable songs or anything. They're not well known, but we're singing them and they rhyme. And when something rhymes and you use rhyme and rhythm, and you use music and you use the beat within the music, and that will help you remember anything. So the fifth one was pink, and what was it? Teaching. The fifth one was teaching. It's all about paying it forward, passing it on, teaching each other, learning from teaching, learning from experience. That's the best way to learn. So, has anyone got any questions? Yes.
Just that thing with location.
Yeah.
How do you work with that actually in terms of if you're like, I didn't quite catch that. Are you thinking about where you're putting it in, or is it just something the brain does on its own?
It's a visualization. So I'll give you two examples.
Like the room and the
Yes.
Okay.
Shall I give you the examples or not? I don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I do with GCSE history. By the way, I didn't teach GCSE history out of choice. As much as I love history, I'm not a great fan of the curriculum. But I wanted to make it as interesting as possible, so I used memory techniques. And with the Roman room, this is what I did. I said, right, I'd like you all to visualise a room. So they all visualised a room. And some girls, they'd never done any visualisation before in their life, and so they couldn't see a room. And so I said, okay, let's draw a room out then. So after visualising it, we then drew out the room that we could see in our mind. That's really helpful. If you like drawing can help you as well. And it links to the visualisation. So we just drew a room and then added furniture in. So if anyone wants to do this, just to learn a couple of key things. So has everyone got a room in your mind?
Yeah.
And then the next stage is to add the furniture in. You might put a car, a table, a bed, a little table like this. You might put a wardrobe. It's completely up to you. You can put anything you like, but it's about furniture. So they all put their furniture in, and then they drew all the furniture out in the drawings. And then I said, now imagine you're standing at the doorway to the room. So they're standing at the doorway and they're looking into the room. And now imagine you walk across the room and you stand at the opposite side by the window. So they did that, and that's about seeing things from different angles. Because if you see things from different angles and you can change your perception on things, then it helps you, again, remember it. Sorry. And so then to remember it, firstly, I said, right, now I'd like you to imagine you're standing at the doorway to the room, and on the left-hand side of the wall, you can see a calendar. And on that calendar, it says the month, August, and it's got a picture of a sun, because it's normally warm in August. It's not. Apparently, we want it to be warm and sunny in August, and many children have got the idea that August is sunny because it's the summer holidays. So I said to them, I'd like you to imagine that it says August on your calendar, and it's got a picture of a sun or something summery. So they did that. And then underneath, where it says the year, they put the year 1914. And then I added that in, and I said, what year? They went, 1914. All of them, all 30 children, 1914. Okay. And so they could see 1914, but particularly with the location, it was on the left wall. And it doesn't matter what wall it's on or where it's near, but because they could see it, and they could see where they'd put 1914 August, how they helped to remember it. And with the route, it's about seeing the location in relation to everything else. Does that make sense? So I'm walking on a route, and say, for example, I pass a phone box, I pass a park bench, and I pass a post box. Now, it needs to be a route you know very well, like the route to school or the route to work or anything like that. It needs to be a route that you're very, very familiar with and you know all the landmarks. And then in terms of location, you visualise whatever it is you want to remember in a particular location next to a landmark, so you know where it is. So, all right, then there's a shop there, and at the doorway to the shop, I'm going to see some umbrellas or my mobile phone charger or anything, whatever it is you need to remember. Does that answer your question?
Seems right. Can I ask you one more about it?
Yes.
What about wiping the board for the next time you want to use the thing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you say anything like that?
Yes. It depends on what technique you're using and how many things you're wanting to remember. And I'd add in an extra thing. But you can wipe the board, yes, or you can just create another room. If you're doing the route and you're using personally, I would do the room, unless the route is really effective if you want to remember something in a particular order. And then you can just do a visualization and just wipe it. So you imagine that you're seeing a projector screen in front of you, and you just clear it all out. Yes?
Can the room not be based on your actual house then?
Yes, the room can.
It can. You don't have to start a new room.
No, it's completely up to you. I mean, it's just that generally what memory champions do is they create a palace in their mind, and they have one room for each particular aspect. But the other thing that was quite interesting is people with Asperger's or autism that have incredible memories, they link whatever it is they want to learn to a colour, I've forgotten his name, but I've got a book called by an autistic guy called I Was Born on a Blue Day. And for him, Wednesdays are blue. And it's all the colour, and it's about making the connections. So you can use any room you want, but it's just that it depends on how much memorizing you want to do. You can do a palace or you can do a room at home, but it's about making the connections between pieces of furniture in that room. So, any more questions? No. Okay, I'm just going to bring it back up, and I'm just going to show it from different ways so everyone can see it one more time. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I do and what I visualise for the future. That's all right. Thank you. Can I just press? Oh, are you? That's handy, isn't it? Do you want me to not do it? Do you want me to not do it?
No.
Takes a second to warm up, does it, John? We all take a second to warm up, really. Okay, I'll talk about me for a moment if no one minds. Okay, so I've not been teaching long. Oh, there we go. I'll still carry on my sentence, and then I'll come back to this. I always say interrupt me if you're bored or if you're not having fun or anything like that, or if you think you're not going to be able to remember this. I love teaching. Teaching is my life, and I think it's really, really important that we all recognise that everyone is a genius. And through different visits to inspirational schools, particularly Russia and Bali, and different places around the world, I developed an accelerated learning method, this one, that I use to show that a language can be learnt in 2 days or GCSE in a week, and that our potential is unlimited. And so with this, at the moment I'm running Spanish courses in Bristol and London. The next one's in Bristol next month. And some people say to me, well, what do you cover of the language? And we cover a whole range of things, from ordering a meal in a restaurant, booking a hotel, having a conversation with friends, asking for a particular item, going shopping, the weather, the news. There's quite a lot that you can cover in 2 days. It's just about the way you do it. And I'll just say a couple of things about the courses. For me, there's two things with teaching. There's accelerated learning, which is the approach to teaching something in particular. And then there's the approach to learning. So for me, the things that fit into approach to learning are things like the best group size is 12 people in a group. And the best time for learning is 20 minutes. Any more than 20 minutes and we start switching off. So I didn't stick to that one, did I? And 20 minutes is something that scientists discovered. And then I was talking to a man at a festival a few months ago, and that's what shamans, Native American shamans do. And he met this man, and he was teaching something, and he taught for 20 minutes, and then he'll start going off on a big tangent about something completely random, and it's because he knows that that's what our brain does. So if you're teaching something, or you're going to a course, or you're learning something, do it in 20-minute chunks, and then have a 5-minute or 10-minute break, and it makes such a difference. Have some water, have some food, do some brain gym. It doesn't matter what you do, just something completely different. So that's me with the language courses, and my website's, I'll show it at the end, tanyamore.co.uk. But I also, for me, part of it is about connecting educators, and I've got another website called Inner Spark Education, and which is what this is for as well. And it's about sharing resources, sharing approaches to learning, sharing teaching methods. Inner Spark Education is about connecting people that are really looking at bringing the best out in the student. So I've got, at the moment, there's a Facebook group and there's a website. Feel free to come and join if you want to, and I put all the inspirational videos on there, all the great links that I find. That's where it all goes, and it's about working together, because we've all got so much knowledge, as I keep saying. We've all got so much knowledge, and we can all share it. And we can all work together. And so I really want to connect people and really want to move into a new paradigm, really, of working with accelerated learning, so that we're all sharing what we know. So I'm going to come back. Oh, it's turned. Did anyone notice it had turned? So that was me, that, by accident. So I've turned it deliberately so we can start seeing some of the words. Depends on the light, but some of us can see it. So we've got relaxation is here now. I'm going to keep turning it in a second. Relaxation. Relaxed body equals happy body equals ready for learning. Collaboration. See this picture? This is all about the games and the playing and the quizzes and the music, creating role plays, acting out stories. And we've got the water. Can everyone see this picture of water? Yeah? So even though you might not be able to see the words, most of us can all see the little pictures, the brain and the food, and here's the memory down here. Yeah. Oh, really important. Like, I'd link that to relaxation, and for me, the most important thing is that people are comfortable. And this space is lovely, but like generally, a classroom space that we're aware of is not, and quite hard. For me, bean bags, sofas. When I've done learning in people's houses before, it's been amazing because we've got sofas there. So I think if anyone is setting up a school or does any educating, the best environment for learning is comfortable. Lots of sofas, lots of cushions, lots of blankets, because your body temperature fluctuates when you're learning. So you need to have options. And I also say lots of space. Lots of space to move around and dance and move our body and to just get up and do something different. There you go. There you go, I moved it around a little bit again. So now we can just see it. It's deliberately all in different angles, so you have to turn your head around when we're normally looking at it. I have some of these as posters if anyone wants to buy one. And we're just going to do it for £3.
I think your green and yellow is too similar.
Let me show you the poster.
Maybe on there. That's better.
You see?
But is that two reds you've got there?
No, it's the pink.
They're too similar.
It's the light of a tent.
Or maybe it's a yellow roof.
It could be. Colours are really important anyway, but thank you for pointing that out, because the other thing about colours is contrast. And when you can see the contrast, then you see that there's a difference between what it is you're looking at. There we go, memories at the top. You're bound to remember, that's what it says in this little triangle here. And this is also chunked, the whole of this diagram is chunked into groups of 3. There's 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Everything is in 3s, because that's the way you remember something.
You could use your own colours. You don't have to use those colours.
No, you don't. I say, at the school in Russia that I went to, the children there, if they don't like a textbook, they'll rewrite it. And for me, the textbooks are like teaching. I say, if you've got a piece of information that you really want to learn, write it out yourself and use colour pens and do drawings, and it's really valuable. So, has anyone else got any other questions?
Is this on your website, sorry?
Which bit?
That.
This picture is not. No, this picture isn't on my website. All about accelerated learning is on my website in different ways. I've got quite a lot of blog articles and information about accelerated learning.
How do you remember something you've forgotten?
How do you remember something you've forgotten? How long ago did you learn it?
Well, just in principle, is there other, how do you recover stuff that you've lost? Like my mother, she's got dementia, right? So she can't remember the beginning of a conversation. So how do you recall it?
That's a different state. Animal, isn't it? Well, when you get dementia, your brain is actually deteriorating. I don't think there's they haven't come up with a repair.
Even normally, like how do I remember my birth, for example, or my childhood? Is there a way to activate them?
Oh, the way to activate memories is to talk about them. So if I started telling you stories from my childhood, I went on holiday to France and then I did this, and then if likewise, if you did the same thing, if you started telling me stories from your childhood, you start getting all these images come back in your mind, and it will start becoming clearer. So tell stories, or write it down, use colour, and repeat, review, recall. So always recall things. It's really good. Tell stories to everyone you meet. Find someone and say, hey, can I tell you a story? It's great. Did you have another question?
I was going to say that I don't think the average person can remember much before they were sort of from 2 years, the first 2 years of their life. I don't know many people that can remember first steps, eh? Their first walking.
Some psychologists talk about state-dependent learning, and so if you actually go back to where you spent your childhood, and actually go to the physical location, or if for example you lost something and you were maybe drunk at the time, some psychologists suggest that your memory is state-dependent, so you actually would put yourself back into the state in which you forgot or lost that piece of information, or you physically go to the location.
Yeah, I thought that's what you could do. You go to the location.
Go to the location where you spent your childhood, maybe.
Yes. And because of what it does is it brings back triggers.
Yeah.
We go around saying I have a bad memory, or I've got so much information and I can't remember it all, but actually we can remember it. We just got to work out how to retrieve it. It's the key thing. It's recalling it, retrieving it back from where we put it.
The common thing with them is association as well.
Association, yep, definitely.
Is that right then, that your brain actually doesn't look, all of everything is actually stored in your brain somewhere?
Yes. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Some people are better at retrieving it than others.
Yes, although you can get better with practice. I always suggest doing something that's completely out of your comfort zone, learning a language or learning about plants, or learning keeps your brain young, and it helps you to remember things and recall things. And I keep repeating myself deliberately, but share knowledge. Like if you know that at some point you were very knowledgeable about something, get into a conversation with somebody and start. Oh, I remember that, and then it will just come back. As soon as you get yourself into that state and you reminisce about it, then it will come back. Hello.
Yeah, sorry to backtrack. I was just going to mention olfactory memory, which is smells.
Yep.
So if you smell something, quite often it will take you back to a place or someone that happened, very often to do with childhood.
Yeah.
So that's like really powerful for reinvigorating memories.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Yeah.
It's also like, you know, not necessarily chronological, but like vibrationary. So if you like get very, I remember one time when I was older, I got very kind of etheric and wasn't eating and very high. And then I could remember, oh wow, you know, when I was a kid I could see fairies. And I was on that same level again. So it's kind of like, you know, memories are on vibrational levels.
Yes, definitely. Time isn't in a straight line. It's in a certain...
easier to remember the happier times?
Not necessarily. Any kind of emotion, what it does is it releases a hormone in the brain. I've forgotten the name of it. It's called amygdala or something like that. It releases a hormone in the brain that basically puts your body on alert. That's even if it's a happy or a sad memory in the experience. And so you can look back, and we can all do it as an experiment now, but we find it's just as easy to remember something really painful or something really happy. Sometimes it's because we haven't forgiven someone, or we're still angry about a situation, or for different reasons, for painful ones.
Maybe we don't want to remember the sad.
Maybe we don't want to remember it. But there's a lesson in everything, right?
Can you tell us a paragraph about the school in Russia, and also where we can find out more information about it?
Yes, okay. So, thank you for... The school in Russia is mentioned in the Anastasia books. So, for anyone who's heard of the Anastasia books. And it's based in the southern Russia by the Black Sea. And you can buy a DVD online, tekos.org. But on the Facebook group that I've got, Inner Spark Education, I've just put a link up. I don't know the link off by heart, but you can find, there's a link where you can watch the video. There's a half-an-hour video that you can watch for free online. And it was started 20 years ago by a man called Chetenin, who believes that every child is a genius, and we just need to give them the platform to be able to express themselves. Now, there's many things about the school that I personally wouldn't do myself, but it's completely up to them. But they're incredibly inspirational. But an average 16-year-old at the school, they can build a house, they can cook, they can clean. 16, they have business skills, they know how to run a business, they can speak different languages, and they've got a degree at 16. So it just, in many ways, we're cutting our children short in this country. So you can find out more from tekos.org, or if you're welcome to join the Facebook group on Facebook, or look on innersparkeducation.co.uk. And there's you can watch this. You can either buy the DVD, it's £10, or you can watch it for free online. It's up to you. Any other questions? No?
Your brain gets sort of full up. I mean, I find I just don't want to know anything more. I go to things, and I've heard a lot of it before. You know.
So that's basically a foggy feeling.
You just can't
bother to learn. Can anyone relate to this feeling?
Back into a sort of a left, what's the other side of the right brain?
The right brain, the creative brain. Can anyone relate to that? If you've just been listening to something for hours on end and you suddenly get a bit, oh wow, that's just too much information, I need a break. What's doing is the brain is kind of working on overload, processing everything, and sometimes there's a disconnect between the neural pathways. And so that fogginess is about literal cloud along the neural pathways, and you literally need fresh air and water.
And a banana.
A banana.
20-minute chunks.
20-minute chunks, yeah, I've been talking too long now.
No, not you, but it's true that you can. If you look at sort of colleges, unis, I mean, how long are lectures?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
We need to keep things nice and short and sweet, and it's much more powerful. And if you use images, that's why I've got lots of images on here, then it's far beneficial, and your brain's much more likely to remember it. So, I'm nearly done with me. That's me. Does everyone here understand accelerated learning? Well, there we go. That's good. That's a success.
I want to go and teach somebody something.
Good. Go and teach somebody something. I do have these posters. If anyone wants one of these, I'm just £3 for one of these. If you want to stick it up on your wall, they're quite nice on your wall at home. So, and there's my website there, so you can find lots of links, lots of blog posts on my website about education and accelerated learning. I've also got a newsletter list for if anyone that wants to sign up for my newsletter and get all the latest blog posts and all the articles. And hello, how's it going?
So how do you take it all in? It's so much information, isn't it? How can you be bothered to take it all
It depends.
in?
What do you mean, take what in?
Well, all this stuff you can get off the internet and that, you know, there's just so many...
We're overwhelmed.
going with
We've
stuff.
got so much information. It's about being selective and thinking,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I really want to learn. I mean, I want to learn about permaculture, about off-grid, about solar panels. There's so much we want to learn, but it's about working out what this is really important to me. This is how this links in with my goals, and this is why I want to learn this first. So it's selective, get in a different order, and taking responsibility for it. So you learn something, then you teach it.
I'm just thinking about what you've been speaking about, how I learn something. You know, I get your method with association or whatever. But actually, when I learn something, what I try and do is I just try not to think while I'm getting the download. Even when I look at a video on YouTube, if I want to kind of absorb it, I just look at it without comment, and it kind of just goes in.
Yep.
So that's good, isn't it?
That is good. Yeah. Thanks.
you're lucky.
Has anyone got?
I went back to college at 45, and I struggled a bit at first, but after a couple of months, all of a sudden my brain became hungry for more information.
Yeah.
It was like the more I learnt, the more I wanted.
The more you want to learn.
Yeah, it was like a sponge that just kept getting. I was in the library all the time, sort of.
Well, I still say if anyone is doing any kind of academics at college or university or any kind of studying, every time you learn something, apply memory techniques. If you really think about repeat, review, recall, chunking, breaking it down, using colour, using images, then you know that, and make sure it's meaningful as well. What's the point in learning something we're just going to... So much of university, you write an essay, you hand it in, done, now I don't know anything about it. No, let's make it meaningful, mean something to us.
Actually, it's better than having to do an exam, because you forget it even quicker.
Oh yes, you forget an exam. So, I'll be around in here if you want to talk. It's Colin up next. That's me finishing. If you've got any questions, please come and see me. I've also got my business cards here and flyers. My business cards have got something similar to this on. So I hope you have a lovely rest of the festival. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.